Welcome back to the Apatros Review. I'm your host, Millie Sipka, and in this episode I'm going to talk about a film that was a minor franchise during the 1990s, Subspecies, which was the Band family's first vampire movie. Now it was directed by Ted Nicolau, written by Jackson Barr and David Pabian, and story was contributed by Charles Band. Now the film was released on, actually you saw the DVD there, the film was released in Australia, both a 4x3 and a widescreen edition by Big Sky Video, which is a minor label that released quite a lot of the full moon pictures at the time. Now, the pros of this film is it's an interesting attempt by Charles Band to launch his first vampire horror franchise. The story is full of facts about native folklore and land of vampires. The con are that there's got a slow pace, dull action, lack of serious gore and nudity that pretty much hampered this one. Anders Hove also need to weary work his bad vampire accent. Now the story. A pair of American college students arrive in Romania for research on the local history, along with a native-born classmate. They stay at a local fort which was the scene of a strange siege in Dark Ages times, where they also meet the enigmatic Stefan Belescu, who claims to be a zoologist. Stefan is actually a vampire prince who has returned to his native country to stop his evil half-brother Radu from taking over the vampire throne and plunging the country into darkness after Radu brutally killed their father for possession of the mysterious Bloodstone, which gives an unlimited supply of holy blood for the vampire user to drink from. As Radu begins to take a liking to the students, Stefan must reveal his heritage to the girls and stop his half-brother from turning them into his brides. Now it seems strange that until 1990, Charles Band never actually made a vampire film before. The Empire Studio made some pretty novel franchises: Reanimator, Trancers, which is known in Australia as Future Cop, Troll, which had an infamous cheap Italian sequel made years later, the terrible black magic comedy Ghoulies, and several other B-grade cheapies. With Subspecies, Charles Band used the film as one of the first releases of Full Moon Pictures, which would later keep the video shelves of your local rental video shops well stocked for the next decade, just as Empire did for 1980s video stores. But while the film succeeded in making a brand new franchise for Full Moon to complete its stocking requirements, the film itself was not that terribly well structured. Subspecies is essentially a ye-olde style folktale vampire movie, made at the turn of the decade that, unlike the Count Yorga franchise of the early 1980s, which did a great job at transplanting the vampire genre to the present day after so many average Hammer Dracula sequels, this film takes us pretty much back in time, although not literally, to the historical roots of vampirism and the effects it had on local folk traditions and beliefs. The film was one of the first genre films, indeed the first true vampire film. Of course, Stuart Gordon had made a similarly themed vampire telepic in Romania called Door of Darkness, which pretty much removed all the traditional vampire imagery and substituted fanged tongues to mediocre effect, making the film there shortly before the fall of European communism, to be made in Romania and was made shortly before the Cold War ended. As such, director Ted Nicolau gives a good deal of mileage out of showcasing local peasants' customs and some reasonable use of lighting and shadows, particularly using Radu's shadow to symbolize the sneaky bastards method of creeping up as the victims. The film also shows some pretty novel examples of using existing solutions to old problems, like using ancient rosary beads as shotgun buckshot rounds and carving stakes from the precise type of wood for maximum vampire killing effect. But, alas, Subspecies is a pretty mediocre film, no more. The story lacks any innovation and slow pace does it no favors. The characters aren't exactly anything new, but at least the actors do their roles justice. The whole plot MacGuffin of the Bloodstone has a negligible effect on the story and is only there to give the villain something for a bargaining chip. Not that it helps one bit. The climax is underwhelming, and the sword fights sloppily choreographed, where the demonic creatures that Rado crafts from his severed fingertips are portrayed by mediocre animated stop-motion puppets. Although originally they had actors, stuntmen in cheap suits, playing the roles. Speaking of Radu, the vampire's voice is a pretty bad whisper quiet accent from Anders Hove, which really needed a lot more work put into it. The resulting whisper quiet threats that he makes lacking any real impact. While it did produce a reasonably popular franchise for Full Moon next to the Trances of Puppet Master ones, Subspecies is just an old curiosity from the early Full Moon era, worthy for Full Moon fans and vampire film lovers as a rainy weekend tongue killer. Now, the film has some stabbing, sword fighting, and decapitations to keep you sated on the violence and gore front. Not too much blood, aside from vampires drinking blood from women's throats, and from the infinite supply of holy blood from the Bloodstone. This was meant as fodder for the teenage VHS market in the 1990s, so the film doesn't go too far with the gore. As for the sexuality and nudity, you only get to see two instances of bare breasts from both Irina Movilla and Michelle Bride, and nothing else. Now, this was one of a whole slew of full moon features released onto Region 4 DVD by Big Sky Video, which was a local specialist label that made full moon titles the bulk of its business model, putting out a whole Trancers, Puppet Master, Dolman, and Demonic Toys franchise and sort of crossovers between them. The disc reviewed here is the original release, there being a widescreen version also put out, but since full moon titles always shot in 133 open matte, the widescreen version will always be a cropped picture with information on top and bottom of the screen card to frame the picture correctly, thus making the full screen print version of choice for purists. The picture is taken off an old VHS tape, not too old, and it's practically all the full moon titles that Big Sky releases, most notably the notorious initial releases of Future Cop, which had a really bad picture. I'll get to that in the future. Anyway, this film had a soft picture, plenty of film grain in it has a VHS print upgraded to DVD level quality, and the soundtrack is the original stereo track. The supplement on this disc, in other words the extras, is pretty standard for this disc label's range. There is a behind the scenes feature that is essentially the standard electronic press kit or EPK that Full Moon put on all their VHS releases during the 1990s, although this one comes with foreign titling. There is also a commentary track with Charles Band and genre film critic Chris Gore, which is pretty informative about the production, although it does have its fair share of slow spots. It is actually pretty interesting to listen to because Charles Band explains how when he set up his studio in Romania at the time, right after the fall of communism in Romania, they had some very interesting logistical problems. If you want to listen to it, you'll find out the scene where they're trying to get food to feed their actors. It's pretty funny. The film's original trailer is also included, along with preview trailers for Transis 2, Puppet Master 2, and Subspecies 2 to round out the package. And I give this film a C, which is a 4 out of 10, or 2 out of 5 stars for being average. And that's it for this review.